This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by note.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the note and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast. We are so excited that you are tuning in. Dylan, what is up with your life? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great.
What is up with your life?
What is up with your life? We hope that your life is also great, especially...
I just want to let you know I had to resist the urge to do a headstand and go, my legs!
What's up? My legs! We hope that you're doing well. This time of year is one of my favorite times of year, honestly. Like, I love December.
Mhm.
I love just the holiday season. It makes me very happy and cheerful. And I hope that you are cheerful. But as we head into the holiday season, as we head into the new year, this question is really awesome. And I think that it's going to serve our listeners really well. And yeah, so let's dive in.
Let's do it.
All right. The question is from a listener named Pete, and he asks, how do I build momentum going into the new year?
Pete, great question. Because when you have momentum, it is a great feeling.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have momentum, it's hard. If you don't have momentum and you don't realize you don't have momentum, it's very hard. So let's dive into this topic of momentum. So from a physics standpoint, what is momentum? It's a mass times velocity. So for momentum, we need an object because that object then has mass, and we need movement.
Mm.
So I say this in this way, you are the object. Like, not objectifying anything, but like self-agency of hope. Like, you are the thing. Like, you are the mass. You need movement. That's our velocity. So for momentum, we need a person, and we need that thing of the person as the object moving. Like, that is momentum. So what do we do to, one, even have momentum? And then how do we keep that momentum? Well, one of our favorite leaders and has his own podcast, and just a phenomenal, we'll call a mentor that does not know that he's our mentor.
He doesn't know we exist.
But we follow a lot of his work.
And just before we even get into him, for our listeners, if you're looking for a podcast to really elevate who you are as a person, obviously we're so thankful that you're listening to the Hope Not Note podcast, because that is our goal here. But if not, or if you're looking for another one, go listen to the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. It's monthly. It's only once a month, and it is probably the highest quality podcast that we listen to. And it's very applicable to any season in your life.
Yeah.
Go forward.
First Thursday of every month.
Yep.
Releases. But he did one on momentum, and I think it was the best framework that I've heard with momentum. So instead of trying to create our own, it was like, hey, let's use this phenomenal framework, but add our Hope Not Nope twist to this phenomenal framework. So for momentum, Craig Groeschel states that we need these four things. It is activated by vision, inspired by faith, supported by systems, and sustained by grit. So we're going to dive into each of those four and give a little bit of science, a little bit of Hope Not Nope, but using the same framework that Craig Groeschel has proposed. So one, activated by vision. What does it mean to be activated by vision? Well, you need hope. And for hope, you need self-agency, you need a goal, and you need a pathway to get there. So we're going to take the part of the goal. You need to have a goal. Why do you need to have a goal / a vision? You need an aiming point. If you don't know where you want to get to, anywhere is going to get you there. So you have to have an aiming point. That aiming point may be different for each person, but you need to have that long-term goal. At Hope Not Nope, we like to do 3 goals. We like to do a safe goal. Like, yeah, even if I put in minimal effort, but I still work towards it, I can achieve the goal. That's the safe goal. The second goal is the one that's a little bit more of like, ooh, oh, I want to achieve that and I can achieve that, but that's going to take some work. Like, awesome. And then our favorite is the third goal, which is the reach goal. The goal that you think is like, oh man, I don't think that could actually happen. But once you start building momentum and rolling and you have a pathway to support it, all of a sudden that reach goal becomes very obtainable.
Mhm.
So we like to set three different goals. But the reason is that you have to have the aiming point. You have to have the vision of what this could look like. So how do you start to set your vision, right? This is a combo we have with a lot of our clients, a lot of our friends. Like, how do I know what my vision is? Well, it has to be your vision, is step one, is knowing that. The next step is realizing that it's easier to find your vision than what you think it is. You just need to give yourself the space to have the thought process that allows it to be revealed to you. Simply stated, how do you know your vision? How do you know your aiming point? What's the thing that makes every cell in your body experience joy? The thing that makes you go, oh, yes, I cannot wake up, or I'm so excited to wake up tomorrow to go get after this thing because of how exciting that this is.
Mhm.
So that is what we typically, and we get into much longer conversation with vision, but we'll kind of move forward
Mhm.
just out of sake of time for this
Yeah.
episode. But find your vision first. Momentum, it is activated by a vision. How do you know what your vision is? Give yourself the space to reflect on it. And what are these things, whether it's a project, whether it's a type of methodology of working out, whether it's your business, whether it's family, like what is it that you get to do that serves other people, that gets you so freaking excited
Mhm.
that you are every day pumped to do it, that it's easy for you to talk about because it's like all you want to talk about. It's hard for you to not talk about it because how excited you are about it. So number one, activated by vision. Number two, inspired by faith. Feel free to jump in at any point during this, but inspired by faith. Inspiration, it stirs up the ability of us wanting to take an action. When we look at the word inspire, right, it's one, taking a breath in. It's like inspiring. But then two, it can also be the thing that just like stirs up your spirit and gets you excited to that. You need both. You need to
Mhm.
breathe and you need to feel excited
Yeah.
about what you're going to be getting into. So inspiration, it stirs up this wanting to take an action, but then you need faith.
Mhm.
You need faith. And we've talked about it before on the podcast of our beliefs of faith. And that's not what we're considering right now with
Mhm.
faith. What we're considering right now with faith is the ability to take those first few steps when you don't know exactly where it's going to lead to.
Mhm.
That is faith. And that is in my opinion, one of the harder parts is those first few steps because of the courage that it takes to step out and do the thing that you feel like you're being called to. You need to have the faith that if you take those first few steps, not saying that like after you take those first few steps, it gets easier,
Mhm.
but taking those first few steps, you have to have the faith that it's going to take you somewhere and that you may not be able to see it all the time as you're taking these steps, but you have to keep taking these steps. And you may have a plan A that you have figured out and you have a 5-year business plan, but then all of a sudden this thing comes up and you have to go this way and then this way and this way and this way. But then you realize, well, like, oh, you know what? It didn't go exactly as I had it planned, but I actually ended up getting there and it was better than I ever thought it would be, although it didn't happen in the fashion that I thought it was going to.
Sure.
You have to have the faith that when you take those first few steps and things seem like they're going this way or that way, that it's for a reason. It's helping you learn. It's getting you ready for that next season. And that's going to get you to reaching that desire place on your heart if you have the faith to take those first few steps and
Mhm.
to continue to have the faith to keep stepping even when it gets harder.
Yeah. I will say too, like you brought up courage, and when I think of courage, I always think of like a lion, right? Like lions are so courageous, but the reality is this step of being inspired by faith and taking those first few steps in courage goes back to what you said in the first step of what are the things that bring you joy? Because courage, like the root of courage is core, which is like your heart, right? And so it's going back to like the core of who you are, the heart of what you believe, the heart of who you want to become through this momentum and through this vision and through these goals. And so it's almost like for the first step, you're like, all right, reflect on the things that bring you joy. The second step is very similar. Reflect, but now take the steps in the direction that bring you joy and speak to your heart. Like that's what courage really is about.
Yeah, yeah. And 2 points from that is the first step does not need to be a drastic cannonball step.
Yeah, you don't need to jump off a cliff metaphorically,
Right,
right?
right.
Like
Like,
you got to get up to the cliff first.
right. Like, and this is just to paint the picture of it. Like, one day I want to play for the Boston Red Sox. So I know we probably have a lot of Yankees fans. Let's go Sox. Like, I'm a young child and I say, I want to play for the Red Sox. Well, what's the first step in that ever happening? Well, one, having a vision. We have an aiming point. Two, inspired by faith. But then, like, what's the next step that I can take at that age? Get a mitt,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're not going to go try out for them.
Hmm.
Like, you're going to respect the process and get a mitt. So, a lot of times we're talking with people that are considering opening a business or wanting to get to the next level of competition, whatever that may be for that person. And it's like, well, like, awesome business idea, but do you have a clientele
Hmm.
to even start with? Do you have a way to get this product or service out to people? And if you don't, well, like maybe you don't just jump ship from your full-time job. Maybe you go part-time hours. And then as you're working part-time, you're dabbling in your own business. You're starting to get the foundation of it set up. So again, like small steps. It doesn't,
Hmm.
I think we in society have this idea of like it needs to be this big drastic move and no risk, no reward. And it's like, hey, like take some small steps in it.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. And it actually is going to be more beneficial for you in the long
Hmm.
term. But at some point you do have to make that full commitment to
Yeah.
it, but it does not need to be immediately right away.
Hmm.
Like start small, build momentum, and then let it grow from
Hmm.
there. To the other point, courage, right? Like we think of lions, and I don't know if it's from the Lion King. Like I don't know if that kind of changed our viewpoint on like what courage is of like
Yeah.
these lions.
It's got to
And
go way further back than that because
yeah,
like I think of um like kingdoms use lions as or like there's lions on flags. Like lions always have kind of symbolized
yeah.
that. But we can say it's from Lion King just for the sake
For
of
the sake of saying
Lion
that
King.
it's from Lion King,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
not taking anything away from lions, one of my favorite big cats out there in the world.
Hmm.
But when we talk about courage, you know what I think of? I think of those little birds that clean out crocodiles' teeth.
Yeah, of course you do.
Like that takes courage.
Hmm.
Like they entered into this working relationship, having the faith that this gator's not or crocodile's not going to come down and munch.
Yeah. Munch, munch,
Like
munch.
I'm going to sit here and clean your teeth, and we have this whole relationship. Like that takes some courage
Uh-huh.
and some faith to keep going back and cleaning those teeth because at any moment that crocodile could change its mind
Hmm.
and go, "Huh, easy food." So
Yeah.
like, yeah, that little bird, I don't know what his name is, but that little bird, that's some courage there. All right. So step one, activated by vision. Two, inspired by faith. Number three, supported by systems. You need to have systems in place because what stops momentum? Friction. And if we have friction, the momentum is going to be halted. Friction is the counterforce to momentum. Systems are the counterforce to friction. And let's paint a quick example of what that looks like. So let's say my heading into the new year, my goal or my aiming point is to, let's make it simple, be consistent at the gym. That's what I want to achieve in the new year. So I need a system for that to happen. I need to have what time am I going to the gym? Do I have my workout clothes? And when I get to the gym, do I know what I'm going to be doing? Right. So I can start to look at the system and put that in place of, you know what? I'm better working out in the morning because if I don't do it in the morning, I won't do it the rest of the day. So my system is that I'm going to go to bed earlier so that I can wake up earlier, and I'm going to go to the gym, get my workout in, and then go about my day. So start with a basic system.
Mhm.
But then let's start looking at, well, where are the friction points within that? Well, you have to have breakfast, you have to eat at some point. So, all right, gym, food, family, breakfast, and then work. Or if you're really in a rush, have a protein stash in your car, in
Mhm.
your glove box. Because what ends up happening? Well, I really do need to get some more food in today. So I think the consistency in the gym is just going to have to wait,
Mhm.
right? Friction point, momentum stopped.
Mhm.
Another thing that may stop someone from achieving this, oh, I forgot my gym clothes.
Yeah.
Like I'm working out after work and I forgot my gym clothes. Well, not going to work out in my work clothes, so not going to the gym today.
Mhm.
All right, so now let's create a system that decreases that friction. One, have the bag prepped. You're human, you're going to forget it at some point.
Mhm.
Have backups in the car, right? Backup gym shoes, backup clothes, have it stashed in the car so that if you do forget something, guess what? There's not friction
Mhm.
because you have that backup there. So, whatever system that you need the system to have momentum.
Mhm.
And for us at Hope Not Nope, to have hope, you need a pathway. Part of that pathway has to be a system that's supporting your vision and that's supporting your ability to stay inspired and to have faith so that you can keep moving forward with momentum. So you need a system in place.
Mhm.
If you don't have a system in place, the friction is going to stop it. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, and going back to your example too, I know someone who works at a gym, but then also like works out.
Hmm.
And if you work out early in the day, you probably don't necessarily want to stay in those sweaty clothes all day, even though they're still fitness clothes,
Right,
right?
right.
And so every week, I feel like they might do this for like accountability, but I see on their Instagram they have their meals prepped every Saturday or Sunday for the week coming up, and they put all of their workout clothes in a pile like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way down.
Mm,
So then all of the clothes are already prepped for the entire week. And not only does that like, it's a system that they have and it supports what they're doing, but then it also, like you said, it decreases friction
mhm.
and it like I go back to some of our earlier podcasts, and it allows for there to be less decision making
Yeah.
throughout the day, which really, like, that's them living efficiently in
Yeah.
the season of life that they're in. And so, you know, I know I typically would like plan what I'm wearing the night before, but imagine if you had your whole clothes planned for the entire week, how much
Oh,
like that decreases uncertainty throughout the week too.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, it decreases friction and it takes a little bit more of upfront work, but it saves you a lot on the back end
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So the fourth one. So again, number one, activated by vision. Two, inspired by faith. Three, supported by systems. Fourth one, sustained by grit. Gotta get gritty.
Let's get gritty, baby.
And not the dance, little Justin
Oh my
Jefferson, but
gosh.
like grit. Like we need grit. And Angela Duckworth is like the head researcher in this area. She has a book that's called Grit. She's done a lot of different talks on it of defining what grit is, and it's passion and perseverance to achieve a goal. Passion and perseverance. Need passion. If you have passion without perseverance, not going to achieve it. You need both of those things, but you need the perseverance. You have to persevere through the obstacles that come up, the friction, because once you persevere through that friction, you now have evidence that you can continue to keep doing it. You also then can look back at your system and go, hey, how do I prevent that friction from the future? But it takes perseverance to do it. Grit is effort. It's effort. When we look at achieving a skill, a goal, whatever it may be, talent times effort equals skill. Skill times effort equals achievement. Effort times passion equals grit. What's the common thread through all of those?
Effort.
Effort.
Hmm.
You have to put effort into it. There's no getting around it. There's no easy way out. There's no easy button. You have to put in the work. that is the self-agency. That is the pathway. Like that is a framework of true hope, not false hope. Oh man, that's a great vision. And yeah, you don't have to do anything to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like just sit back and it'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say to that too with like, we get these ads all the time of like, hey, use this E-stim on your abs and get a six pack. Not that easy.
No.
Not that easy. There's no easy buttons with, I'll say this, there's no easy buttons in a vision that is worthwhile.
Yeah.
And if anyone is telling you that there's not.
Mm-hmm.
It takes effort, perseverance, and continued passion. But if you're able to stay in that, momentum is sustained by grit.
Mm-hmm.
Momentum is sustained by grit, supported by systems.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to think about momentum, and you think of like, I don't know, maybe like a ball rolling,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's going to be things that get in its way that create friction. And I like the idea that if you stop putting in effort or you lack the effort to stay committed, then that momentum is going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will slow down, but eventually it will stop if you do not continue to put effort into
Yeah.
it. Where I think there might be this like false reality or false hope that momentum um when you have momentum, then there's like less work to do because like the ball's rolling.
Yeah.
But the reality is like the only way to keep momentum going is to keep putting in the effort.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think from a like a leadership perspective, like the kind of the picture that I see or vision I see in my head is like, right, well, let's take that ball rolling. And we know that it's going to stop because we have air resistance and these other factors that are creating friction to get it to stop. But if you're a leader of a team, your goal is basically to figure out the ways that you are blocking out the metaphorical air resistance and the other frictions. You're the one that's there, kind of the ball is rolling and it's starting to slow down. You're blocking out the air resistance and you're also kind of kicking the ball a little bit to keep it rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a leader of a team, it is your duty to make sure that momentum is occurring. And whether it's looking at your business, whether it's looking at your family life, whether it's looking at your spiritual life, and just going, hey, where's the ball not rolling? Or I think of a hockey puck sliding, like where's the hockey puck not sliding? And how do I get it to slide? And then how do I keep it sliding?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you have momentum, it's a great feeling. But then when you lose it, it's very defeating. So once you have momentum, again, like Brandy said, it's not like the work is over. Now you start to change your system to make sure that the systems that are in place allow this to keep rolling.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep your team fired up. You got to keep them on the vision. You got to value them. You got to let them know that what they're doing is important and that they're
Mm-hmm.
seen and that they're heard and that they're a crucial part of this team. You got to give them creative freedom. You got to have some boundaries, but then you got to give them freedom within those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to, as a leader, make sure that that ball keeps rolling. And we know that when a leader steps into a room, that it changes the meeting, it changes the interaction. If I come into a meeting and I'm like, oh, well, I'm really beat up and no, we have this meeting. So yeah, what do you guys got for me today?
Great.
Wow, real productive
Yeah,
meeting.
that's not really helpful.
And the sad part is like I just robbed someone of an opportunity of significant momentum
Mm-hmm.
that maybe had an exciting thing that they wanted to pitch or a new idea or something along those lines. And they're just like, ooh, not the day
Yeah, not the
to
day to
do
talk about
that.
it. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the whole company's momentum is halted because of the leader coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of kicking the ball forward or sliding the puck forward, they booted it the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
To know that the way that you show up into these meetings, into these rooms, like impacts what's going to be happening around you.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever's going on, you can be transparent, right? But like maybe leave it outside that
Mm-hmm.
meeting, come in like, man, I love working with you guys. What do you got for me today?
Mm-hmm.
Like what any new ideas, any things we need to chat about, but like let's go.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited to be here. I'm glad that you're here with me.
Mm-hmm.
completely will change the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, if you don't believe me, try it. But also, like, I don't want you to lose that productivity in trying it.
Right.
So, yeah, just
Maybe don't.
take our word for it. And if you're not
Yeah.
going to take our word for it, take Craig Groeschel's word for it,
Right.
who has much more experience in leadership and work and leading teams than what we do at this point. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope that this discussion on momentum helps you to get momentum rolling into the new year. I think at the beginning of the new year, people look at themes, they look at New Year's resolutions and all these different things of like all these like different dreams of what this new year of 2025 can hold. But I think that if you're able to start building momentum now towards that, like don't wait till January 1st, but start building the momentum now and maybe even take these next couple of weeks to reflect on these 4 points that we discussed of how you can keep it going. And when that February, March lull happens and that friction comes, how you can keep it going despite meeting that friction. And so I hope that this episode served you.
Yeah. Hope stories.
Hope
You
stories.
could lead it off.
Sure. Mine is very simple and honestly kind of like a goal for this new year, as well as just something that I've been doing more so lately. And in reflection of my working experience prior to being full-time with Hope Not Nope, I just remember this time of year, I would get up before the sun, and then I was typically at work before the sun really was like in the sky. But then by the time I left work, I the sun was already down.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's that time of year where like we don't have as much sun as we would like in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And so what I used to do was at least once a week, give or take, I would either go outside and eat lunch in my car, or my friend and I would actually drive to the local mall and go for a walk during lunch. It still wasn't outside because of it being cold, but it was at least like we got some fresh air going to our car and then like in and out of the mall. Or we would sit at the local lake and eat our lunch together and then have community time, but like have the window down a little bit to get the fresh air. Anyways, these are things that I used to do, and they were really like good and life-giving for me, but something that I'm doing now that I guess I want to share, it's a hope story, but it's also like really just an encouragement to our listeners of like how can you get more fresh air and sunshine time. And I think for me, going into this new year, going into the winter, I really want to do my best to get outside each day. And that might mean wearing a winter hat and a coat and warm clothes and then working on my laptop outside for a little bit of time each day. But having already started doing that, I did a lot in the summer, but now, oh, the cold's coming, I don't want to. Like, we can bundle up. And so I'm sharing this because I also have another friend, and I forget what the exact goal was, but her goal was either like 1,000 or 2,000 hours. I forget. So like, I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact number. It could have been 500 hours. Like, I really don't remember the number. But her goal with her children was to accumulate that many hours outside by the end of the year. And she said that equivalent, the word is hard. Basically, it was
Equated.
four equated. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. But basically
Equivalated.
it would be 4 hours a day that
Okay.
she would need to be outside like with her kids. And granted, her kids are 3 or 4 and younger, her two kids. And so like she's a stay-at-home mom, all that stuff. But she was like, that means in the rain, in the snow, no matter how cold it is, we do that.
Yeah.
And if we miss a day or we only do 2 hours a day, I have to now do 6 hours at a different time. And so that was her goal, like for the whole year. And I think about realistically for me, I might be able to do that because I work from home. I don't go and see many clients and all the things. But I think even if you had the goal of like 1 hour every single day to get outside, like how nice is that? So that's my hope story, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I just
Awesome.
wanted to share that with our listeners and say like it's never too I don't want to say never, but it doesn't the coldness or the weather doesn't have to stop you from getting outside and getting fresh air, especially during the season or the time of year where you don't want to do that. Like still go out and do it and be a little gritty, put in a little effort. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Oh, I love it. And it got me excited because I had one hope story and then it brought up two other ones. So I have three hope stories, but
The
they're all the
the
same theme, the
trifecta.
trifecta, but it's all the same. So I have three clients that are all in wheelchairs. Like that's how they get around and they're in the wheelchair. And one in particular is kind of uh, harder for him to get around. So he's down in the basement. And we had this one day that it was just like super sunny outside and it was a beautiful day and I was just going to see him and it's just like how do I best serve him today? And what I realized is like it's not going to necessarily be movement, it's not going to be conversation. Like imagine being almost stuck in a room and you don't see the sun that often upstate New York, and then there's this one day during fall winter time and you're just looking outside. I went back to like when I was a kid in school,
Mm.
and it's just like you have that nice day out, and you're just like looking at the window, like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Like, can we please go outside for lunch or gym or like, can this day just be over so I can go outside?
Mhm.
And sometimes there's some cool teachers that were like, hey, we're gonna do class outside,
Mhm.
but not too often. But I'm like, man, we can just get them outside today. That's gonna be the best way to serve them.
Mhm.
And I got there and I said, hey, our goal today is we're going outside. We're gonna figure out how we make this happen, but we're going to do that because this sunlight and you getting outside from out of these walls is gonna serve you in a way that I will never be able to. So we're getting outside. And we did, and it was a awesome session.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't accomplish the movements that were programmed for us to accomplish in that day, but it doesn't mean that progress was not made.
Yeah.
Like a lot of progress was made just by soaking in some sunshine.
Mhm.
And then two of my other clients, anytime that we get to do a session outside, we do. And one beautiful lake house, and it was like, you know, in the 50s
Mhm.
and cold draft coming up off the lake, but the sun was out. And he's like, I want to go down to the lake for our session. Or like, I don't know, man, it's pretty cold.
Mhm.
And like, skin in this condition, like you don't do well in the cold. So I don't know if that's the right move. He's like, I want to.
Mhm.
All right. So we made it happen.
I
We
love
made it
it.
happen. We went down there and it was beautiful. Because
Mhm.
like there's also like no boats on the lake
Mhm.
at this time. It's just nice and open, like beautiful
Still water.
scenery. And even like the draft coming off, it was cold, but it was like nice.
Mhm.
So I think for the providers that listen to this podcast, when I was working full time clinically and we had a nice day, I did anything I could to see as many people as I could outside,
Mhm.
especially clients that are in wheelchairs. Of like, hey, we can go and we can transfer over to this table, or we could like even just stay in the chair and go outside and still do like manual resisted leg presses, manual therapy or manual resisted glute drivers, a lot of stuff with the shoulders, a lot of stuff with the core, maybe standing if they're capable. But there's creative ways that we can get outside and like
Mhm.
soak in that sun. And I'm not just like, oh, the sun is good for you. Like the science is very clear
Yeah.
on the benefits of the sun. So like let's get that to people, especially the people that aren't able to
Mhm.
easily access it just from like walking outdoors.
Mhm.
And like yeah, like we can bundle up and go get out in the sun, but these people that, you know, there's more barriers to it. Let's find ways.
Mhm. I love it.
Yeah. Trifecta.
The trifecta, happy sunshine.
Happy sunshine.
Thank you guys for listening, and hopefully that this episode was able to serve you, and hopefully you heard it and you were like, you know what? I'm gonna go listen to another Hope Not Note podcast, but this time I'm gonna go outside for a walk while listening because I want to go in the sun. That's the goal for this episode.
Yeah.
Just kidding. There's a lot of hopes and goals for the episode besides that, but if anyone does that, gold star for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Momentum.
Momentum, baby.
Momentum. We're gonna keep that momentum rolling. Hopefully you feel like inspired
Mhm.
to get your vision first activated and that you're thinking about that and starting to look at like, okay, what system can I use to help support that, get some momentum rolling. It's a great feeling when momentum's rolling.
Yeah.
But have a great week, and remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful, it's an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Note podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Note podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.